And welcome back, everyone, to Lantern Corp. It's the start of a new month, which means we go back to that formula of Lantern Zombocto. And this one from Newborn Viking is, what is the Lantern Core of the Frankenstein monster? Now, the Frankenstein monster itself is not Frankenstein. Anyone who's worth their salt knows that. We refer to it as Frankenstein, but it's the Frankenstein monster. The Frankenstein monster also doesn't really have a name, although sometimes it's named Adam. In fact, a lot of times I think it's named Adam. But we just refer to it as the Frankenstein monster. Furthermore, the question about what version of the Frankenstein monster I use would come into question, because there are a lot of interpretations of the Frankenstein monster. You've got the standard Boris Karloff, which I have in the background here. You have the Hammer Films version of it. You have the Van Helsing movie, of the Robert De Niro one, Dracula Unbound, Monster Squad. Like, there are literally multiple versions, so many versions of Frankenstein that you could go with, that it's like, okay, do I composite it all? Well, no, because some of these versions of Frankenstein are actually quite different. So I'm sticking with the original, the Boris Karloff one, because it's just the most well-known version of Frankenstein. It's the one we look at the most. So, in terms of a Lantern Core that this individual could qualify for, as always, let's go down the list of ones that I know for a fact he would not qualify for. Right out of the gate, no way he can be a Gold Lantern. Not happy all of his life. Despite the fact he has been brought back from the dead, and is technically immortal, I do not see him being a Lantern of Life. He's just not. You could make the argument that he is trying to experience life, but I think his very nature is juxtaposed to that. Out of the fact that he has accidentally killed individuals, he seems to be very oblivious in many ways to the whole concept of, hurting people. At least in the original movie. Once you get to, Bride of Frankenstein, it gets a little weirder. Hope is another weird one where you could make the argument, like he's holding out hope for, to be among the people, to be accepted, all that. But I don't see, no one puts their faith in him. He's not a beacon of hope. So I wouldn't go that route either. I also would not go with avarice. Despite having wants and needs, he's not selfish or greedy. He just has basic desires and wants to be treated fairly, if possible. So now that we're talked about at least a couple of them now, let's talk about some that I think he could qualify for. Right out the gate, unfortunately for him, is Fear. Fear is definitely one that we have to at least put in consideration, because what is the whole idea of the Frankenstein monster? Is he's terrorizes the village, and the villagers are afraid of him, so they attack him. That is Fear. He's inspiring fear without intending to do so. Oh, I forgot Young Frankenstein. I completely forgot Young Frankenstein, too, as another Frankenstein. Because the idea is, if I cannot be loved, I would inspire fear. But, yeah, so Fear, I think, has to be on the table. Ironically, for the first time in a while, Green, I don't think, is on the table. Let me rephrase that. Green is not one of the ones that I think is the most likely. Is it on the table? Technically speaking, a lot of these are on the table if you can argue it properly. But I don't think he'd be a Green Lantern. Overcoming great fear, I don't think he ever really did that. Willpower, I don't think he really has anything above standard willpower. It's not like he's enduring. It's not like he's enduring the March of Time or all that. He's enduring, the hate of others, but he also kind of gives in at some points to the hate, but also doesn't. I don't think will works, is what I'm trying to get at. It's also been a while since I watched the Frankenstein movie, so you'll have to bear with me in terms of my interpretation of the character. But that being said, another Lantern Core he could qualify for is Rage, believe it or not. I think it's very clear. Now, not the beginning of when he comes back. I don't think that. But after the fact, later on, as he's trying and failing to integrate with society, and everyone is now after him and wanting to kill him, I think Fear is Fear. Sorry. Rage is, especially when you get the Bride of Frankenstein, and he was basically tricked by Victor to make the wife. It's like, nope, not for you. I think rage definitely could be there. I think it could be. Love? No, I don't think love would work. Now, the reason I don't think love would work is because even though he wanted a companion, it's not, he didn't actually love her. He was just, lonely and desperate for companionship. And then she rejected him, and he was, turned down. I do not see love as a very solid option here. I do see, believe it or not, though, compassion being an option here. Compassion is interesting because, as we've said, either needs to be your dominant emotion or you need to be completely devoid of it. It generally tends to go towards people who are completely devoid of it, like murderers, serial killers, monsters of individuals. And basically, because it's a parasitic ring, it robs them of their base personality. Let me phrase that. It robs them of their main personality. Their base personality is still there, but it's just kind of, it's like being on antidepressants. There's no high, there's no low. It's just a beep, middle ground. And yeah, so because he's so fresh and new to the world, Frankenstein's monster actually could qualify for compassion because he doesn't have any concept of it. Like, he was friendly with the girl, they were enjoying each other's company, and then he throws her in the pond and she drowns. That's not compassion because he just doesn't have a concept of it. And even when you get the Bride of Frankenstein, he still really doesn't have much a concept of compassion. Like, he's begging for compassion from the doctor and others, but he himself doesn't really seem to have any, or at least nothing that would be strong enough to prevent him from being a qualifier for compassion. So I think compassion's got to be on the table. Now, the one Lantern Corps you haven't seen me bring up, and you would think would be in just an automatic to qualify, would be the Black Lantern Corps, the Death Lantern Corps. The problem here simply is, technically speaking, yes, Frankenstein's monster started off dead. However, Frankenstein's a weird one for the Black Lantern because he's a combination of different men, including a brain that didn't go into that body, or wasn't part of that body. So it's one of those things where, like, okay, technically every part of his body was dead at one point, even the brain, and yet I don't know if that actually works. Because you've now, like, perfect example, with the Black Lantern ring, if you were to just cut like 10 people up into different pieces, reattach them in different combinations, does it still work? Like, if you cut off the hand, but the hand's still there, does the hand become a Black Lantern? Or is it the whole spirit soul thing going on here? How would a Black Lantern ring identify a composite being like Frankenstein's monster? I'm not 100% sure. Now, is it impossible? No, absolutely not. He's still technically a dead body that came back to life. So he could still hypothetically qualify. But because of the weird gray area there, I chose to, even if he could qualify, I think one of the other three is probably more likely. So yeah, I would say that's the runner-up here. So the question is, out of compassion, rage, and fear, what is the most likely Lantern Corps for the Frankenstein monster? I'm probably actually going to take rage, out of the equation first, because the rage, I think, came kind of later, because he was just so base emotions to start out with. I think the rage, while not initially there when he woke up, showed up very soon afterwards. But it's not something that necessarily drove him, though when he was angry, he was angry. Between fear and compassion, this would all depend on when the lantern rings show up. If the lantern rings showed up shortly after his awakening, his rebirth, let's call it, I would go with compassion, because there's been no sense of fear about him yet. However, if we're going by, like, say, the end of the first movie and then going into Bride of Frankenstein, I would then go with yellow, because at that point now he does inspire great fear in people. And I think that outweighs compassion, at least in this case, or lack of compassion. Because he understands compassion, it's just the level of compassion he has is very minimal. So again, it's all dependent on where you get him, because the series goes on past the beginning of his story, obviously. I would say that we'd have to end on fear for him. I think fear is the one that makes the most sense. It's the one, too, that he probably doesn't want to qualify for. If he had an option, understood what these meant, it's the one he would not want to qualify for. And it's ironic, sadly, that he would probably qualify the most for it. Compassion, though, I would give it the next one up. Then I'd go rage, and then I'd say death. Death and rage actually probably are either interchangeable, or I might even push death above rage. Again, Frankenstein's monsters are a weird gray area when it comes to the Death Lantern ring. So, I don't know. What do you think? Let me know what you think about the whole concept I had there for the Death Lantern ring as a whole in Frankenstein. Do you agree that he could be a Yellow Lantern? I gotta fix up this thumbnail, too. You can see that I've been slowly cutting off the side lantern course. But where was I? Yeah. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Do you agree with what I did, making him a Yellow Lantern? Or he's kind of yellowish in this picture too right now. Or would you do something else? And which one would you do? Is it one of the ones I also didn't bring up shame. Shame is, ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is said to be negative emotions, but it's believed predominantly to be shame. To be fair, it's clear this guy felt a lot of shame, and not unnecessarily so. Like, he didn't ask to be born. But, I mean, it's in the discussion of shame. Shame probably falls before, it's behind death, but before fear or compassion, I think. That's what I would say. Let me rephrase that. It's probably behind death. Like, it's above rage, definitely, but it's probably behind death, I'd say. Anyway, let me know what you think. And could you make an argument for any of these? Let me know in the comments below. And if you have an argument, let me hear it. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.